So the context here is like these guys have just done like 6 classes on DJing or on Tractor. So that was called like DJ 101. And in that we went through some basics, which I won't like fully repeat, but just so you have the context. Today we're going God bless the Germans, but they learn things like, just how is DJing? What does it work? What does it mean for two tracks to be in sync? Tracks have different keys. Some keys go well together, some keys don't. And then there's different parts of tracks that work well with each other. If you put two choruses with each other, it's going to be too full, right? And then at the end, they put all that together and actually built a set. And we had a Zoom where instead of me sharing screen, they shared their screens and they shared it live, which was sick. And yeah, that was that. So we had that 2 weeks ago, and then we decided to take a break. I've also, in the meantime, for the people that were DJing, I got something. Hang on. My friend's given me his S4, the deck.
Shut up.
Yeah. So I'm playing a party in 4 weeks after like ages. So I need an S4. So if you guys ever do if you guys still do keep going with Tractor, which you can keep doing both like Tractor and Ableton. And if you ever get a mixer and you want a course on that, I can easily put together. It'll be like 1 or 2 lessons on just how to use a mixer and how it frees up your hands, and you can do so much more. And that's when the fun really starts, I feel, is when you can actually like it's tactile. But this class, I'm still figuring out. And actually, you know how I said, and you all laughed, at the end of the last class, I was like, let me send a feedback form around so I know what works, what doesn't work. And you can also tell me what you want to learn. I thought instead of that, let's just have a chat on this call about what you guys want to learn, and I can shape the course accordingly. So that's why over here, I don't have much of a structure. I'm just kind of making it up as I go. That's how we did it for Tractor, and it worked. So let's go ahead and get started. This class is called God Bless the Germans because Germans, Ableton is made by Germans. I'm still figuring out what to teach or not because Ableton is so vast. And that's what you're going to see in this first class. So you're not really going to particularly learn anything new in this class today, but we're just going to see what is Ableton, what's possible in it, because every producer can approach it differently. It's such a creative software. It's my favorite thing ever built. And then there's obviously a little, homework, as in like just you getting Ableton and downloading some tracks, and an optional YouTube playlist that you can watch that I've been watching while I eat, which is called It's called Made in Ableton Live. It's different producers using Ableton in different ways, and it's so well made. It's made by Ableton. So what is it? Ableton, which is just this thing over here. Can you see Ableton on my screen? Cool. Yeah. So yeah, by the way, guys, if I'm ever look like I'm referring to Ableton, but you can't see it, just let me know. Because Zoom screen share sometimes messes with me. And also if the music, I'll play some music soon. If it's too loud and my voice is too soft, let me know, but I've tried to mix it so it's just right. But yeah, Ableton is what's called a DAW or a DAW, and that stands for Digital Audio Workstation. So as you get into this, you might hear that word thrown around a bit. So for example, Tractor is not a digital audio workstation. It's a DJ software. Digital audio workstations do arguably like way more than DJ softwares because you don't just get a pre-existing track and mix it with another pre-existing track. You can actually create original sounds. You can also take pre-existing tracks, and Ableton can do what Tractor does, but Tractor can't do what Ableton does, right? So it's like the mothership. There are some other popular DAWs that you might have heard of. Ableton's my favorite, and as people in the DJ class know, I have biases, and I'm very vocal about my biases. So Ableton's definitely my favorite because it has a really unique workflow, which I'll show you in a sec. It can do a certain thing that no other DAW can do. There's also Logic, which is like GarageBand's big daddy because it's also made by Apple. So it looks a lot like GarageBand, but is obviously really quite advanced. The thing is, all of these, everything maybe except GarageBand, all of these can do the same end result. Make a track, make it sound professional. Every software can do that. Just like how I said, you can mix tracks on Pioneer CDJs. You can also mix tracks on Tractor. They'll sound the same pretty much. It's the same concept with DAWs. I'll just quickly run through some of them. So FL Studio, it's kind of like the equivalent of virtual DJ. It's like how you get started in your, I don't know, when you're in high school or something, but it's actually grown quite a bit and quite a few professionals use it. It's very popular with Windows users. Cubase, another one made by Germans, is arguably the first DAW out, and it's still kicking. And then there's Pro Tools. I fucking hate Pro Tools, but Pro Tools is the industry standard only for like movies or band mixing or post production. So all those really like old people with beards and stuff, they really like Pro Tools. But a lot of the young kind of generation likes Ableton. And as I said, no one is better than others. They all do the same things, just differently. And then GarageBand. People might have heard of it. It's beginner. It's surprisingly powerful. You can do quite a bit with it. And it comes free with every Mac, which is handy. So I'm going to show you what makes Ableton different. I'm going to pause here actually and just check how much people might know about it. Does anyone know with this hint why Ableton is different to any other DAW?
Because it has like arrangement view and it has, I forgot what that's called, but the other one that's not arrangement view.
Someone's tuning in from Germany. Fuck yeah, that's exactly right. So this is actually Ableton's logo. And the reason is its logo is because this is their one unique differentiator. If you see Ableton like this probably looks familiar. On the bottom is seconds. Can you see my cursor? Sarah, I made it bigger for you. Is this better?
You're making it sound like I'm blind. Yeah, no, honestly, that's actually really good, I think.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
So on the bottom is seconds, on the top is beats. Every other DAW, DAW for short, looks like this, where you can like, you know, at the 4th beat, let's add a kick. And at the 8th beat, let's add a hi-hat. It looks like this and it makes sense. It's linear. The unique thing about Ableton is if you just hit the button tab on your keyboard, it switches to this view, which is called session view. So they've literally taken the workflow and flipped it on its head, where now columns are instruments or different sound sources. And then this is the mixer at the bottom, whereas traditionally it's, you know, rows are instruments and the mixer, which is the 0 thing, is on the right. So anyway, don't get hung up too much on that. But what this enables is it's the only software where you can create your own music in arrangement view or in session view. But session view, which is called this view, allows you to perform your music live. So it's the only software where you can perform your music live. Whereas with, you know, the other ones like Logic and stuff, if you're saying you're performing live with Logic, you're probably just hitting play on the arrangement, and there's that bar going and it's like playing whatever's playing. So, and you might have a keyboard and stuff that you're playing live, but if you have it over here, you can have different clips that you can trigger live. So that's what I'm going to show you a little bit in this class. I know some of this might initially be like, you know, you don't really have examples. So I've made some examples for this class. I've literally just shown you I'm going to show you what's possible with an Ableton. That's all this class is about. And then we'll have just a jam on what do you want to learn and we can take it from there. So I'm going to show you a few examples. One example that you can do with Ableton is you can program a DJ set. So for the people that did the earlier class with Tractor, you know how to now mix a DJ set live using Tractor, CDJs is the same concept. But over here, I use the word program because it's a bit different to mixing it live. You're literally automating or programming it. So let's say there's this track here, right? And it's like how we did earlier, track A, track B, deck A, deck B. Just think of the first track as deck A, second one is deck B. But the beauty is if I hit Command T, it adds a new audio track and I can keep going until like, I think the limit is, I think it's unlimited. It used to be 127, but now it's unlimited. So you can just do as much as you want. But for now, just imagine, yeah, this is deck A, it's playing, right? I'm just fast forwarding through it. And then this is deck B, is the second track. I found a nice part where, you know, it comes in. It's the simple intro outro transition that we've seen in the previous class, where you wait for the outro of the first track and then you play the intro of the second track and you just let it do its thing. You guys can hear Ableton, yes?
It's pretty soft.
Oh, fuck. My bad. Can you hear Ableton now? Sweet. Yeah. Amina, Arsha, Priyansh, no headphones. Tat. Yeah, get some earphones, get some headphones. They just help. So now you're watching a transition happen. No hands. I'm not doing anything. It's just, you know, it's like film editing. I've chosen elements and then there's some similar things. So there's an EQ over here. the low in slowly. There's an EQ over here. I can take the low out. There's some similar, terminology. Filters, in the first class we had filters where it just sweeps out the high frequencies and just keeps the low frequencies, right? So similar stuff. To guys that haven't done the DJ class, don't worry about these terms like EQ and filter. If it's not familiar to you, it will be familiar over time. So this is example one of what you can do with Ableton, right? A lot of radio DJs use this because radio DJs, they have to make a 2-hour mix every week. So instead of them actually using 2 hours of their time and recording, hitting play on a track, just waiting till the end of the track, let's say they just know their track, because a lot of radio DJs, they get paid from the record labels what tracks to play anyway. This is the pop world, right? So they take those tracks, they throw it into Ableton, and they literally just program it like this. So you could say that's a lazy way of doing it, but also what it does is it gives you extreme control. So if I want the bass of this track to duck out at that point and come back in, look, I've drawn that line and it does exactly that. Look at the low here, it went down and came back in, right? So that's called automation. So I'm automating things. Any knob, any button over here can be automated, whether it's volume, my reverb. So I got no hands and it's doing its thing. So that's example one, a DJ set. Before I go to example two, which is like making a mashup, any questions at all?
How did you do that?
All good. That's the kind of stuff that we'll get into from lesson 2 onwards. How to, simple things like how to make an audio track, how to drag the track in. You have to then make that track be in sync with the actual metronome at the back. Can you guys hear that metronome? Right, so how to get it in sync. So we'll do all of that in the next class, actually. That's what I was thinking. But now I'm just going to show you the different things that are possible. So this is the first example. Second one is, making a mashup or an edit. There's so many words for this. Rework, bootleg, whatever you want to call it. But the basic idea is, in DJing, you're taking a track, you're then transitioning to the next track at its core. With a mashup, what you're doing is you're playing with that a little bit more. Instead of just the track ends and the other track starts, it's like 2 tracks are almost playing at the same time or marrying into each other, and it becomes a whole new product, like A plus B equals C kind of thing. So this is a transition I've shown you all in the previous one, the song Not Alone, which samples Interstellar, Hans Zimmer, and then this song Soweto, which Priyansh has shown me. You guys have heard this one. You can hear Ableton, right? Okay, just let me know if you can never do it, if you can never hear it. So now what I've done is I've made a mashup. So this looks similar to what I just showed you earlier with the DJ set transition, except as you can see, this part that's being mashed into the first track is in the middle of the track, not at the end, right? So let's hear what it sounds like. What are these little bits that I've put in? They're little teasers. Right, so it teases that like something is coming. And then over here, the tracks mash up. Right? It's not like super clean or anything right now. I literally just threw this together before this class, but you get the idea. So now you might be thinking, if you've done the previous thing, you're like, well, I can do that on Tractor. Technically, you're right, but then you can't do things like this. So what I did there is the usual track just continues like, but I wanted to take that and double it. So I just literally made a cut there and I hit duplicate and then it does this. And again here, right? These seem like really like simple ones for now because we're just starting simple to show you what's possible. But those are things you can't really do in Tractor. In Tractor, you can like add an effect like a delay or a reverb, etc. But you can't like manipulate the track to that level. I can't take this part and say, okay, now I want to reverse it. And in Ableton, I just hit R and it reverses it. And now it's right. Well, that wasn't the best example, but you get what I mean. You can like cut things, duplicate them, reverse them. So now what's happening is this is the original track over here, Soweto. I've taken bits from here. Then you can see I've made a cut here. I've taken that part and put it there. Then like the last part and put it there. So I've changed the order of the original song completely. It's so easy to do when it's, in a system like this, where it's like more like a linear video editing kind of arrangement rather than Tractor where you're doing it live. So Tractor is good for certain things and Ableton's good for more complex things. Right? So that's a second example is we saw how to like do a transition. Then you can also do things like making your own edits or mashups. Any questions before I move to the third one?
If you do a thing like that and upload it to SoundCloud,
Yes.
how much, like, how does it work with copyright or like it getting taken down? Like how much you need to change before it becomes, or are you allowed to do that? I'm not sure.
No, it's a really good question. So technically, and look, I don't know the proper answer actually to this because like the copyright.
This is not legal advice.
We're not back at Uber, Sarah. Yeah, this is not privileged and confidential. But so I think the general rule is that you can't commercially gain from it if it's to other people's. But what SoundCloud does is if you put it up, they even take it down if they recognize that it's yours, etc. Even though I've credited the artist or anything, they sometimes scan it and take it down. So I'm not. I think with putting a print version online, like a recording online, that's not technically allowed, but it's a gray area in the law because what is yours and what is a remix or not is changing. But you are allowed to play it live. That's fine, apparently. I did Deadmau5's masterclass and he mentioned something like that.
So like when someone like, is it Timbaland? I don't know, like any of those people takes a song and then just adds like a to it.
Oh, okay. So that's slightly different. So, no. Can you make that sound again?
But so, it's true. No, they added more things, but still.
I was wondering whether we should go into this one. I'll quickly touch on this. The technical official terms and these different words over here, like a remix is when an original artist commissions a remixer to take the stems of that track. So stems mean every track will have drums, synthesizer, vocals, pads, the different parts of that track, the elements, the bones. And they'll export each stem individually. And then I, as a remixer, can take those individual stems and I can take just the vocal, for example, and completely remake what's under it. And then it's done officially. So I get paid, it's licensed, the original artist gave me permission, etc. So that's what Timbaland would be doing because he's like, a legit producer who's on record labels and stuff. A bootleg is when like an online artist takes parts of the song or finds an a cappella online or samples a part and then unofficially remixes the track. So they don't really have permission to, they're not getting paid to, but they just have an idea and they want to get it out. Yeah, I think that's it. Edit is where you just take a track and then you like change the structure of that existing track. It's not as exciting potentially, but that's like a slight difference. But this is what I was telling Arsha a little bit earlier when I was chatting to her. Is like there are some questions you might have on Ableton, etc., that I don't know. I've been using this software for 6-7 years, but it's so vast and new shit just keeps getting added on that I don't know everything. So I will very much happily put my hand up and tell you if I don't know something. So even with that, it's a bit of a gray area. I don't know the answer. Cool. So the third type before we go to producer stuff is you can also then perform a DJ set live. So first I showed you how to program a DJ set. Now I'm telling you, you can perform a DJ set live. What does that mean? So earlier we used arrangement view. think of arrangement view as where you do anything to then select it. And then, I can select this and I can go like export as MP3, and then it exports it as an MP3 file, and then I can put that somewhere. But this session view, and I'm just switching by hitting tab, this is where I can actually go to a club or something, plug in a controller, map different buttons to different buttons over here, and actually like perform things live. So that same transition I showed you earlier, in its most simple state, this is me performing it live. Over here, it's very boring. I'm just hitting a play button at the right time, but you'll get the idea. Right, so I'm like waiting till the 169 part over there. Then I've triggered the second track, which is like slowly starting. As I said, this is not the most exciting transition, but I'm now in effect performing it live because I can affect things. I can pull down the volume of this. It's a lot more made for live performance. Okay, so that's the third example. Now we'll get to more producer world, which is DJing is, as I said, you take existing tracks and then you kind of, you can change their structure, order them in a certain way, build a narrative, and that's pretty much DJing. Producing is a bit different. So let's say making your own music, for example. So this is a random thing that I made as like a background score for a podcast that I was working on. So this is like music that I composed. It's not the best or finished or anything like that, but just so you get an idea. These are like, chords that I've written, and then effects. This is a clock ticking, right? So these are just different layers. This is a reversed piano that's going to come in. Right, these are some drums that I found online that I've affected. Cool. So you get the idea. Basically, I can use audio tracks to pull existing audio like a ticking clock, and I can set it to a beat. But now you're also noticing something you haven't probably seen before, which is these tracks. They don't look like waveforms. Like an audio track will have waveforms like this. But these tracks have like these lines, right? So there's two different kinds of tracks. One is called an audio track. Command T makes an audio track. And Command Shift T, we'll go all over this properly later, makes a MIDI track. What is MIDI? So MIDI stands for, I think, Musical Instrument Digital Interface. And it's basically, it's almost like a language, but it literally, MIDI is where you take, there's, a piano and there's all of these notes, and you can actually write in notes, and those notes will trigger different notes from the piano, for example. But then over here, I can take it and I can put any instrument to it. I can choose any instrument and it'll play those same notes I just wrote in, with through those actual notes. Jesus, that sounds terrible, but you get the point. I can put on different instruments. And that sounds really bad, but you get the idea. So we'll get into MIDI later. That's actually something that's a little bit more probably complex. But I just wanted to show you an example of how you can, an end goal, if you have it, we'll chat about each of your goals at the end of this, is you can use Ableton to make your original music. And that's what a lot of the big producers use it for, and they love it for. Cool.
I have a quick question on that.
Yeah.
How do you know if you like accidentally recreated a song that already exists?
You are loving your entertainment law today. So
Only because I've always thought about this. I'm like, how does someone really know that song doesn't already
what happens?
exist?
There's a documentary called Everything is a Remix. Definitely watch it if you're interested in this stuff, because I love this stuff. At the end of the day, in music theory, there's only 12 notes on a piano. This is a keyboard, right? It starts at C over here, and it ends at C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then it repeats. It's the same thing. And a scale is where you take 7 of these 12 that seem to just ascend in a natural order to the ear, and they repeat as well. So there's only 7 notes in a scale. there's only so many melodies you can come up with. And so everything is a remix of everything else, right? Obviously, what I said, there are some asterisks. That's Western music, you know, Indian music, Middle Eastern music, African music. There are different scales, different frequencies that they've picked out. But most music you're talking about is based on that system. So what I wrote, it could very well be the same chords as something else. But if I write those same chords in another scale, they might be slightly different.
But can you run it through like a program that tells you how much percentage similar it is to another thing? Because like how does someone, yeah, like that's what I was thinking of, like 10, because then I don't understand how someone releases a song, like how, you know, you could release a song and then like a year later get sued by someone for having like the same three notes.
The really sad one with that was that Blurred Lines song.
Blurred Lines.
Yeah,
Robin
they got
Thicke.
sued by Robin
Yeah, but
Thicke.
yeah, but he deserved it. I mean, that song sucked.
Yeah, look, just from a law perspective though.
No, there was another one
that got
I
sued.
forget what it was. Yeah, but they recently got overturned. I forget what it was, like Dark Horses or something.
There's heaps of them. Like even there's a song by Men at Work, Down Under.
Yes.
Song.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
of course.
like he got sued because people thought that he took that song from the nursery rhyme, the Kookaburra.
The Kookaburra song, and then they got sued.
Sits on the okap tree, and then they had to pay like millions of damages.
So Sarah, I think I'll find a good copyright law course for you and I'll send you that, because that world is its own rabbit hole. Usually though, they say you can be sued based on musicality. So that's the actual chords and timing that can be broken down into mathematical, you know, ratios. And it's like, how similar is it to this? Like you have the exact same chords at the exact same times. That can be suable. But the Robin Thicke song was the first song that got sued by Marvin Gaye's estate. Marvin Gaye is dead, but his family and his estate, the company, is alive. They got sued by Marvin Gaye on the basis of vibe. The musicality wasn't exactly the same, but something was similar. And the judge sued them on the basis of vibe. Why that's dangerous is because it sets a precedent. That's how case law works, right? You sue one, you can sue others based on that one. And now there's a precedent that songs can be sued based on vibe. So take a genre like techno. It's just fucking kick drums, ambience, vibe. Fuck yeah. Like it's all a similar vibe, you can argue. And so it's a dangerous world. But I don't know. I haven't heard any recent. It did flare up, this whole topic, a few years ago. And then it seems to have died down again. Anyway, let's keep
I
going.
have a question.
Yes.
1 second, Div. Yeah. So, so with sampling, for example, how much of a song can you sample safely before it veers off into either becoming a remix or just becoming a ripoff?
There is a number. I think it's something like 6 or 7 seconds from memory. But what you can do with sampling is you can alter the original sample to an extent where it's unrecognizable, and therefore you argue that it's now yours. You know?
But then how is it a sample?
Well, because it came from a source, and that source existed somewhere. So that's how, you know, hip hop was based on this, where they would take old vinyl, they would sample a part, but they would only sample a certain bar and then repeat it, because then it was okay. There's also a law, I think, that after 100 years or something, that sample is now exempt from being, you can't be sued. So then every year there's a list of, these are the new songs that we can sample. So I think last 2 years ago, there was like a big library that went out because it was a big year for music 100 years ago or something. And so that opened up. And then different record labels, like if you're signed to Sony or something, then Sony will give you, that artist who signed to Sony, some songs that even though they're copyright, because you're the part of the same family, they'll let you sample them for no cost or something. Paul Kalkbrenner, one of my favorite DJs who totally became a sellout, and I'm so pissed off about it, signed to Sony and did that. It sounded terrible, but anyway, that's a whole other rabbit hole. I will study up on case law and come back for next class. I just stay in Ableton. But cool. So the next part is, so now I've shown you, like, you know, you can do things with DJing, with producing, you can do things like make your own music. This next part is actually why one of my friends, Shez, is on the line. He's actually tuning in from his holiday in Byron Bay. Poor dude. So this Ableton also allows you to record your own instruments. Now I'm going to show you a very embarrassing part of me because I'm going to show you my voice. I recorded this for a podcast grant application that I finished up last week. But this is the only example I have right now where I've recorded an instrument. And that instrument right now is my voice. But instrument basically means you can plug in a guitar into Ableton by using something in the middle called a sound card. I have one here, but I don't want to unplug anything. It's just this box over here is my sound card. It's a little box, $50 secondhand, found it in some guitarist backyard. And it allows you to plug in an instrument, whether it's a guitar or a microphone, and then input that into Ableton. And in your input, you just change your input. Normally it's MacBook microphone because you have a microphone in your computer. You change it to the name of your sound card. Mine is called Fast Track Pro. 2 in, that means I can insert 2 instruments. Let's say 1 mic and 1 guitar. 2 out means I can output 2, so left and right. But you also get multi-input, multi-output. If you want to record a band, you see those big consoles. They're basically big sound cards. They're taking in a lot of input and they're outputting it into a computer or some kind of recording console. Okay. So yeah, just for example's sake, this is a voice that you can record in Ableton as well. Private for as long as possible. So the morning of 10th May 2019, you can add music. But there was also a man named Alexander Palacio. Alex didn't work at Uber. In fact, he was an actor who lived in Sydney, Australia. Sure, he did some. It was relevant to the thing, Sarah. Just because
I wanted to know what the podcast
even the founder
was about.
of Uber, Travis Kalanick, was not allowed on the podium as he'd make for bad press. Well, it was through a series of seemingly unrelated events. And then you can add like dramatic endings like movies. Welcome to Is It Written? A show about how seemingly small incidents in people's lives have gone on to change the course of their future. Join us for our first episode where we will hear from Alex about just how he got to that podium in New York and then ask him the question, so Alex, what do you think about life? Is it written? I hate that half of you don't have headphones.
I have so many follow-up questions that are unrelated to this actual lesson. So I guess you can explain this later.
We will explain it later. Basically, there's a competition where they're choosing 4 podcasters in Australia for a program. I put in my application. I find out on Monday. But if I win, I get like $10,000 worth of mentoring equipment and I get paid for 6 months to do just what I'm doing generally. So that'd be cool. Yeah, it's based out of Melbourne, but I think it might be digital considering Melbourne's like the fucking COVID hub at the moment. Okay, last part before I included something a little bit just for my friend Amina here, the esoteric, is performing your own music. So I showed you, arranging your, hey, Nayak, get out of the frame. What is this? I showed you, that was my brother, sorry guys. I showed you how you can arrange your own music and arrangement, but you can also perform it. So what that means is you actually have individual control of each instrument. So this is, again, something random. It sounds a bit cheesy because most computer music does before you add the finishing touches. Something I just put together for this class, but it has different layers. So I'm like controlling different layers. So this is, each column is an instrument. That's, I guess, the main thing to remember here, right? This is a synth. This is a French horn. That's my embarrassing voice again. I can open the filter on the French horn, with just the French horn. That's a kick drum, like how you've heard in the DJ classes. you get the point. It's like different columns are individual instruments. And what this allows me for performance is I can turn down just one instrument or filter up just one instrument or effect just one instrument. So it's it's quite different to DJing where you're controlling the whole channel on the left, deck A, and then the whole channel on the right, deck B. Cool. I've added one last one, which is just to show you how you don't need to, and this is actually my background because I came from sound design for film and theater, is I just love making weird shit. Ableton is it's so easy to be weird. But what I realized is I could only be weird and I wasn't able to make anything like melodic. So now I'm trying to force myself the other way. But for example, this is a wind sample, which I'm adding some crazy effects on. This is a guitar which I've slowed down. Right? So like sound design kind of things. Like some people on this call might not be like, oh, that's musical and I want to make something like that. Whereas other people might want to explore things that are in between the notes or in between beats. And I mean, I think there's a really interesting space there. There's all this, noise art is a whole genre by itself. Artists like Nicolas Jarre, his latest album, Cenizas, is literally atmospheric sounds of all sorts of like, up close recordings with microphones where you're really like breaking the rules of sound and music, which is really cool. So now I want to stop talking and I actually just want to like have a jam with you all and ask you what it is that you want to learn. I have made some suggestions below, but I want to first talk to you all, maybe even one by one, like what are the individual things you want to get out of this? And then I can like frame the rest of this course accordingly. Arshia, do you want to start?
Well, it's a tricky question. I haven't really given it that much thought,
Okay.
going forward. But I do. So I just got a little MIDI keyboard. One of the things I want to learn is it's very small. It's only like a 25 key keyboard. So I often find myself
All you need.
missing a note. Yeah, exactly. But like I can't, if I try to learn something and I'm trying to put it into Ableton, then sometimes the last note that I want is not there on the keyboard.
Yeah.
So I want to know how I put it in Ableton and then I switch it to the note I want.
Okay.
Sort of layer it and stuff. Also, I'm not really a fan of like, Tractor and all that. So I would be keen to know, I know a lot of you have already done the DJing thing, but how to do a DJ set on Ableton, I feel it's not a very commonly seen thing. People prefer Tractor, Record Box, all that jazz. So if we could at some point take some time to figure out how to do that, that would be really cool.
Okay, cool. This is where I put up my hand and say there's some things I don't know how to do, but I will like kind of like learn for you because I know my way around Ableton. It's just I haven't used it to do certain things. I program DJ sets on Ableton, but you want to perform DJ sets live on Ableton, right?
Yes.
Arsha? Okay, cool. Whew. All right, we'll figure that out. No worries. Prayansh, my boy, what you thinking?
Dude, honestly, I think like I can use Tractor for sure. Kind of confident with that, but how do I get Ableton to kind of supplement that? So kind of use Tractor and then Ableton as well at the same time, in a way, for live gigs too.
Yeah,
if possible. I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, it is. That's something I'm experimenting with when I'm playing in 4 weeks. Is I want to try and see if I can play Tractor and then also do vocoders, where it's like vocals but like Daft Punk in the same key as the tracks that are playing, just to experiment. So that's something I'm figuring out at the same time. Nice. Are you also, PD? Do you all, because you have an ear for like tracks that go well together? Is one thing that you want to do also do like make edits of tracks?
Yeah, for sure. But I don't know how to play kind of any instrument as of yet.
That's fine. You don't need to for these two things.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a sec. Okay, Amina.
I just realized that I have a lot of field recordings that I definitely want to try and put together and just explore that more.
Nice.
And yeah, I've also just had such an aversion to Ableton and DJing, so I'm also trying to get rid of that.
That's fair. What are you recording with? Can I ask? I love field recording.
Oh, just my phone.
Nice. You know,
Yeah.
Caitlin was doing something similar. I don't know if you
I
know.
think she has a show.
Really?
Yeah,
Like
she
a
did like a
podcast?
radio show. Yeah. Yeah.
Sick. I'm gonna check that out. So just one level deeper, what do you want to do with the field recordings? Do you want to use them, like sample them and put beats behind them? Do you want to just make soundscapes?
I just want to fuck around with them. Like, just
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah, nice. That's actually right up my alley with what I used to do for theater. So we can definitely play with that. Who's next? Jamie, Jamie.
I think what I want to know is how you manipulate and how you put together effects, or how you, yeah, just how you manipulate. Sorry.
Nice. So like taking a source sound like an audio sample and then
Yeah.
manipulate
Or
it to get it somewhere.
yeah, or like creating an original song, like with a couple of chords, and then how you go from there.
Nice. Shares, my boy. Yours was really clear, but do you want to just share again
Yeah.
if there's anything that's changed?
Yeah, so I just wanted to see if how I can bring the melodies that I have written for my guitar
Nice.
into Ableton, and try to, loop them, manipulate them, and add like pianos and different instruments to possibly come up with a song.
Brilliant. Nice. That is like super clear. And I love the fact that there's one instrumentalist in amongst all of us, because I'm not, no, I don't know if anyone, does anyone else play an instrument here? Arsha, unmute.
It was saxophone, bro.
Fuck off.
Okay.
Arsha, do you?
I used to play the violin, but I haven't touched one in years.
Fuck. Can you pick it up so we can sample you?
Nah, man, no way. That shit's expensive.
Sarah has a class, gym, so she had to bounce, and she's so elusive. Even with the DJ class, it's like, what do you want to do? She's like, I'm still figuring it out. And I'm like, I have a feeling she's going to be like the next big thing, but we just don't know where she's headed. But I'm curious to see where it goes. Cool. So that's really good to know actually where all of you want to go. And I'm glad we had this chat.
Sorry, Dave.
Yeah.
Just a quick question with something you were talking about before. You were saying how you can create an audio track and also the MIDI track, right?
Mm.
So audio is something that I would, obviously the guitar that I would record,
Audio.
and then I bring that in. But also MIDI would allow me to replicate those chords or the melody in using just the Ableton software and recreate that. Is that
Absolutely. Yeah. So audio is where you would play the audio in, and it comes up as a waveform. And then MIDI is where you just know what notes you're playing, because you're an instrumentalist, you know notes basics, and you can literally like either type them in, you can even right click your guitar and say convert the harmony to a MIDI track, which is sick.
okay.
And then it just takes out the harmony, and then you just correct it a little bit, and then that can then be a piano, it can be a fucking violin, trumpet, whatever you want. So,
and then
yeah.
in both those tracks, I can add effects and the same effects, the same.
Yeah.
Stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Nice. Okay, that sounds good. So what I've written down is like some skills that I think are handy to know. I didn't start with this because you might not know some of these terms and what they mean, but actually looking at what you all want to achieve, I think these skills are generally right. I might just have to add some. So one of them, and these can kind of be like the basics of the different classes, but I'll add some elements based on like specific things you all want. So there are some skills. So one of them is warping. That's literally, you know how Amina asked when I showed the first thing, she's like, how did you do that first part where I took tracks and I put them to a grid and they just lined up so easily? It's because they were synced to the grid of Ableton. So that's called warping. I'll show you how to do that in the next class. Song structure. So I'm calling it song structure, but it's actually to teach you critical listening, because to make music, you need to listen deeply, differently to how we listen when we enjoy music. It's still enjoyable. It's just a bit more like analytical. And then basic recording. So Shaz, that one will be good for you, but you will need to know these first two, especially the first one, to help you with the recording. Because let's say you make a guitar, you want to then get that synced to a beat. You don't just want a guitar floating by itself. So basic recording, we can go through how to record something. Amina, we can talk about your field recordings over here. We can do guitar input, or even just recording something with your MacBook microphone or your phone microphone. These days is like pretty good to just get something on paper. Cleaning audio should make a more exciting title there than cleaning, but it's actually affecting audio. So one thing you can do is to clean them, but then also, Jamie, how you said you want to like take some audio files and shape them into something totally different to what it started with. I used to do that a lot with theater. Effects come into that, so we can go through that. And then making a simple beat. So Arsha, we did this once in Just Roughs when we were just chilling, where we just had like, you know, it's so simple on Ableton. You can literally just get a drum rack, like drums, rack, and this is it. Like you can just put like a kick over here, the other stuff. Just showing you this for example's sake, just to show you how easy it is, but also how fun it is if you have a beat in your head. Gonna do the most basic bitch house beat for you all, but right. Like whatever, you'll get the point. It sounds like some FL Studio crap right now. Am I screen sharing? Yes, I am. But you'll get the idea, you know, making a simple beat and how you can do that in Ableton. So if you have other elements, let's say even Prayant, Arsha, you're just doing a DJ set, but you want to just add, you just need a hi-hat at that part, you know, you can do that in that section. That's super easy. And then I'm still deciding on this because I don't know how I feel about sample packs and MIDI packs. Because what you can do is you can take loops that other people have made and you can just arrange them together. That's a lot of like garage band musicians. We can explore that when we get to it. It is handy. But I'd recommend taking things that other people make as a source, a starting point, and then shaping it into something that you want to do. So after you've done all of these, you would be able to do that. So at the end of all of that, you'll be able to do almost everything above that we've said over here in these three things that I showed you to start with. But you won't really be, with those skills, you won't be able to make your own melodic music. What I mean by that is chords, what chords work with each other, music theory, scales. I'm still learning this. I'm doing a course out of LA right now called Beat Lab, and we just finished music theory last week. My head hurt after it. It's pretty fucking intense if you don't play an instrument or something. That's something we can explore after this, whether we want to keep going. But I think for now, this would be a good starting point. I just want to stop there. Does that sound fun and like a good layout to everyone? Yes? Okay, cool. That's nice. And then, yeah, we can always shape it as we go, right? If something's working or not working. One question I have is when we did the tractor thing, it wasn't very hands-on. I was looking back and I realized it's like me sharing my screen, doing something, and then going, you do it in your spare time, and then coming back. Do we want to, in this class, for example, with things like warping, where I'm like, step one, do this. Do we want to have it hands-on where you have Ableton on your screen and I go, cool, this is what you got to do. I'll wait for everyone to get there and then go, has everyone got there? Now let's go to step two. Would that be better? Or would just the usual tutorial and recording for you to do in your spare time be better?
I don't have any experience with the whole tractor DJ thing, but I feel this would be better if you were to let us, you know, play with it while you're playing with it. But I understand if for recording purposes that doesn't work, there's just a long gap in your recording.
Right. Yeah. Okay. What we'll do is we'll try it next class. Because obviously the only one con I can think of is like if it's taking a while and then I try to keep this just to 1 hour. So if it's taking ages, then it may not work. But let's try it next class. And then we can take a call on what we want to do. Sweet. Now the fun stuff. I'm going to send you this as a message after. I just make a Google Doc of notes. That's what I did for the previous class as well. How to get it. Good news. The gods have blessed us in this time of COVID. There's actually an Ableton trial where you can try the full suite of Ableton for free. It says 90 days, but some producer threads are saying that it's been extended to 180 days. I'm not sure what the deal is. Just download it. I'll send you this link. Install it. It's pretty self-explanatory. And then it pops up and you'll see the screen and you know you've made it. So between now and next class, just download Ableton, download 3 favorite tracks, ideally different genres, but if they're similar, don't worry, it's fine. I'll give you the link where you can download MP3s for free, which Prayansh and I have been rinsing, I know. And in your spare time, this is what I've been doing. So good. I just love this playlist because
Hi, my name
as I showed you, it's such a vast software that every brain approaches it differently. So you can go through this playlist of how all these different musicians use Ableton to do things like live looping or sampling, field recording, all sorts of stuff that you guys have mentioned, how the pros do it. Cool. Okay, that's that. Does that sound good? I'll send you guys the links to Ableton and stuff. You guys want to download it in the next class, we can dive in a little bit more. See you guys. Thanks for, I guess, I don't know, wanting to do this. It helps me learn by sharing as well, so it's great.
Sherry's is scary, bro.
Sherry's is scary, bro. Bye, guys.
Alrighty.
See you all next week.
Thanks, Stevie.
Thanks, Scott.
Bye. No worries.
See ya.
Thanks.
Bye.
Enjoy Byron, Chaz.